Welcome to Moment for Mother Earth, the podcast dedicated to sparking change for a greener and fairer future. We are a pro bono platform exploring sustainability and ESG in action, from policy and innovation to on ground impact. I am Uditi, your host. Today, we are focusing on issue that's crucial to Canada's resource economy and environmental future: ESG and tailing management in Canadian mining sector. Joining me today is Rahul Mukherjee, who brings good number of years of experience in sustainable mining practices, ESG frameworks, and stakeholder engagement. We are thrilled to have you with us, sir. Uh, let's start with the basic. Sir, first please introduce about yourself a bit. Then we will be continuing with the other part.
Sure. As you mentioned, um, my name is Rahul Mukherjee. I'm a civil engineer graduate from India, and I have a master's in geotechnical engineering and henceforth and some more education after that. I've worked in tailings and mining space for about 18 years in North America, Canada, and then in US, and have done quite a bit of work on tailings management, storage, design, construction, end-to-end, policy development for tailings.
Thank you, sir. That was really insightful and inspiring. Sir, first starting with this, ESG has currently become a buzzword around industries. But what does it really mean for the mining companies which are operating in Canada and North America? And why has ESG become such a central focus for the Canadian mining industry? And how is it shaping business decisions there?
Sure. ESG, a lot of people would know what it means, but I would just like to mention it stands for environmental, social, and governance. In Canada, it's just not a framework, it's a license to operate. So for mining companies, ESG influence everything um, from environmental stewardship and indigenous engagement to how transparently decisions are made and reported. So for mining companies in North America as a whole, ESG is no longer an optional. It's more of a strategic imperative. Investors, regulators, indigenous partners, and communities are all demanding higher ESG performance, and companies that lead in this space are increasingly, I would say, gaining competitiveness and social license advantages.
Okay, sir. So, can you share a Canadian example of ESG consideration which are actually influencing a mining operation or project approval? It would help our audience to relate more to it.
Yes, definitely there are many, but QB2 example from a major Canadian um, player is a good example. ESG due diligence shaped the project's design and execution, from water management to indigenous partnership. And without clear commitments on these fronts, a major project today struggle to gain public and regulatory support.
Okay, sir. So, from now ESG, we are shifting to environmental impact in the Canadian context. So, how do
Mhm.
you think that tailing facilities impact the diverse environment which is found across Canada, and what unique environmental challenges do they present there?
So, a lot of people might not know, but Canada's geography is vast. It's a big country, and the geography there ranges from permafrost in north to high rainfall in BC, which could be -40, -50 degrees, to +30 degrees in summer and snow, and then in British Columbia there's a high rainfall in winters, which means tailings facility face a range of stability and water management challenges. Um, and the climate adds just further complexity, if not more. So what I want to mention here is that tailings management design and end-to-end management here must be site-specific, adaptive, and robust. There is no one size fits all or one design fits all kind of an approach that would work in this environment.
Yeah, so it's like we got to know that there is a diverse range of weathers there in Canada. And so, are there any notable Canadian regulation or guidelines which are guiding the environmental protection in tailing management?
Definitely, there is many, and both at the provincial and the federal level. And I would like to mention about about the Canadian Dam Association safety guidelines. These are industry benchmark. They set industry benchmark for tailings dam, ensuring safe design, operation, and closure. Additionally, some of the provinces, and I can speak for the one that I have worked on mainly in British Columbia over the last few years, their provincial regulation, like BC, British Columbia's Health and Safety Reclamation Code, is quite stringent, and they go above and beyond the federal regulation. And I have had, I've been fortunate enough to kind of work in putting together, piecing some of these regulations from industry side. And there's another one that's majorly noted across Canada, which is called Metal and Diamond Mining Effluent Regulation, which is called MDMER under Canada's Fishery Act. They also control im- water quality impact from tailings. So together, I would say these frameworks drive continuous improvement in environment and safety performance for Canadian tailings facility. And I'm talking more of Canada, and I'll bring North America as a whole because my majority of my experience is in Canada, and some of it is in North America as a whole as well.
Okay, sir. And so, can you give any highlight on any made in Canada innovations or any best practices in reducing the environmental footprint of tailings?
Yeah, definitely. Canada is known and is a leader in filtered or dry stack tailing, and so that's an approach. I mean, a lot of countries are now adopting that. It's an approach that significantly reduces water use and tailings dam risk. There are big major players, and their projects have piloted or implemented these techniques successfully. Companies are also, moving towards progressive reclamation where tailings areas are restored in the mining process, and it's and not just at the closure. And what it does also is it also is like they help regain some of the money that they put into the government as a bond. As they do progressive reclamation, those bond money keeps on coming back to them, so they can use it for further development. And also, Canadian miners are starting to use bioremediation techniques to treat water and stabilize tailings naturally. There is room to grow, obviously, like every other new innovation that's happening. But these made in Canada practices are shaping for a more responsible, lower impact tailing management globally.
Okay, sir. Um, Now, as you are in Canada, so how do tailing management practices if affect the local communities there and indigenous people, those who are basically from Canada?
Definitely, this is very close to my heart. I've always believed that uh, where we work, we need to work for the people, the local people. We need to protect their right, their land, their country, because they have lived there forever, and they want to see their land form the way how they have seen it. So development is essential, and so mining, forestry, these are essential. But we need to be responsible for leaving it in the way how we found it, if not better. So tailings facilities, the name itself kind of raises a lot of concern about water quality, land access, and long-term safety. For indigenous communities, in my experience, It's more than an environmental impact. It's about, as I said, cultural connection to land and generational trust. Meaningful engagement and incorporating traditional knowledge are essential to build trust and ensuring responsible practice. And I would say It's not just giving them a chance to review, but making them more of a partner, and work as a collaboration, because you're working on their land, you're helping them grow, but kind of understand their cultural importance, and respect that, and take care of that.
Yes, surely. What are some examples of effective partnership or engagement with the indigenous communities which are around the tailing projects?
I mean, every project these days, they partner with. There are very progressive First Nation or Indigenous groups across Canada that partner with mining company, and they help in skill development. They help in resource optimization. They help them in culturally adapting. But like such as like a Galore Creek project, which has been co-managed environmental oversight body with indigenous group. Um, you know, the environmental groups and the projects are seeking more of a collaborative effort where community in influence or input, however you may want to say, directly influence tailings location and design. And that kind of inline kind of shows us how we are respecting their land, their culture, and we are listening to them.
Yes. Uh, is there any expectations or exceptions to the Canadian communities and stakeholder have around transparency and involvement in tailings related decisions?
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's growing. That's growing, and that's for good. You know, as I said, trust is very important player here, or it's the most important building block, I would say. So they expect early and ongoing consultation, just not during permitting. Transparency around tailings risk, monitoring data, and closure plans is a key. And in Canada, or I would say whole around the world, there is a growing push for joint decision making, especially with Indigenous right holders. So, again, developing trust, getting to them early, talking to them as we progress, rather than just coming to them at the end.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we know, Canada is often seen as a leader in the mining governance for its years of growth in it. How does our regulatory landscape shape governance and transparency requirements for tailing component to the other regions?
That's a very good question, and I would like to point to go back to 2015 and 16. There was an unfortunate event in British Columbia, tailings dam failure for Mount Poly. It's a well documented, tailings dam breach. And since then, Canada is seen as having one of the most rigorous and transparency regulatory framework. Um, they now emphasis on something. There's a multi level of scrutiny, or you would say evaluation through different kind of experts. So you have a dam safety inspection done by the EOR, the engineer of record, every year. They visit site almost, if it's an active site, they would visit every quarter or even frequently, and then they would document all their findings in dam safety inspection. Depending upon the nature of the risk the tailing dam has, there is a dam safety review, which could be two in every 2 years, 3 years, or 5 years. And on top of that, there's something called independent tailings review board, and that board is appointed by the chief executive of the company, and they report directly to them. So they come independently once or twice a year, and they would go through all frameworks, all design, all the practices that you have been doing. And they they kind of support in third party verification of tailings management practices.
Okay. And are there any public reporting standards which are unique to Canada and that our listeners should be aware of?
Yeah, I mean, it's the TSM protocol by the Mining Association of Canada is widely used here and has been adopted internationally. And GISTM is also taking kind of a more, I would say, it's taking a front foot in tailings governance. And lot of this year, a lot of big companies have actually gone and published all of their, they have been trying to be compliant with GISTM, and they have published their tailings management practices to public. So yeah, I would say those are the ones, which kind of which includes a lot of third party verification of tailings, biodiversity, and water management practices.
Okay, sir. If we talk about the challenges and the opportunities there, what are the biggest tailing management challenges for the mining companies in Canada and North America?
uh, that's a good question. I would say aging infrastructure is one of the biggest. Like a lot of mines have been operated for a while, and they still have, they kind of followed the old practices. They're trying to retrofit and come back to the newer design, but a lot of things are still grandfathered. So I would say, aging infrastructure, and over the year we have seen climate volatility, and permitting timelines. I would still like to keep, but it has gone way better in current political scenario, and the high closure costs are major challenges. The other thing that a lot of people might not know is remote locations also make it very harder to access skilled tailings engineers and materials. I mean, I personally worked at a mine site for 5 years where I did fly in, fly out, and in minus 40 degrees, you would have to kind of fly into a location to an airport which is 3 hours from away from the mine. You can take a bus, or you can drive a car, and there's good roads, and then there's a forest service gravel roads, and you live in a camp setting. Yeah, the camps are amazing. They give you, like, a very good feel, have all the amenities, but you're still away from family. You're still away from family for 14 days. You're just working and staying there and eating camp food. So not every person wants to do that, and especially in today's environment when there is a lack of tailings and geotechnical professionals overall, people are getting compensated similar working for a consultant in a city. So why would they want to move to these remote locations? And that kind of adds to the complexity of managing these facilities.
Yeah, sir, that's a bit challenging. So, what are the opportunities which are emerging for the Canadian companies to lead in ESG focused tailing managements?
I would say there's lots of opportunity to lead in dry stack technology, real time monitoring, and indigenous partnerships. Um, companies are companies that proactively manage tailings can position themselves as a low risk and sustainable investment option. So it for investors as well. They kind of look through all this now, and it's all public.
The global industry standard on tailings management, which is GISTM, is a global benchmark. How are Canadian mining companies interpreting and implementing it?
Adoption, I would say, is accelerating, especially among members of ICMM and Mining Association of Canada. And as I said, already big mining players around the world this year have disclosed their tailings facility based on GISTM guidelines. So that's been happening, and many companies are prioritizing, as I said, their conformance and they can't just do everything at once, but they're starting with more of a high risk sites. And how they do it with like more of an external audit and a gap assessment, and from there they kind of target the high risk site and trying to be compliant. It will take some time, but it's really going in a good direction.
Okay. Is ESG accounting being widely adopted in Canada, and how is it reflected in Canadian mining companies' annual sustainability report?
That that's a very tough question. I mean, ESG is a buzzword, if I may say, these days. And at the end of the day, accounting, it's important. It's important what you can how you can actually show it on your books, right? So yes, many large Canadian miners now use frameworks like Sustainability Accounting Standard Board, more popularly known as SASB, or Global Reporting Initiative, or Task Force on Climate Related Financial Disclosures. These basically guide companies on disclosing, so like TCFD, the Task Force on Climate Financial Disclosure, kind of guides company on disclosing climate related risk and opportunities, including scenario analysis. So there is adoption that's happening. It's slow because we really don't know, like, how to translate this in terms of accounting. But these frameworks are helping us, and together they are helping in building trust with investors, regulators, and communities. But I wouldn't say that we are there yet. There's a lot of room for improvement, and it's happening as we speak.
Okay, sir. From your point of view, do you see any unique Canadian approach or leadership in ESG disclosure or tailing risk assessment?
Yes, yes, I think we talked about this before, but yes, like big companies, big players, mining players around the world have published standalone tailings disclosures. And Mining Association of Canada's commitment to third-party assurance sets a higher bar than more jurisdictions. So that's how, like, it's kind of keeping you more, I wouldn't say different from other players, but they're definitely taking it more seriously, and adoption is faster.
Okay. Now coming to the stakeholders, finally for Canadian mining leaders and stakeholders that we are listening today, what's the single most important takeaway you would offer regarding ESG and tailings?
And I would like to say, this is my personal opinion. People might have different opinions on this, and what I think from my experience is, I would say, the single most important takeaway in this is ESG and tailings are no longer a technical issue. It's not about just knowing about them, and it's not a technical subject. They're a trust issue more now, so it is taking more cultural and societal side. For Canadian mining leaders, prioritizing transparency, community inclusiveness, and risk informed tailings management is key to securing social license, I would say, investor confidence, and long term volatility. And personally, I believe, like, we all know that tailings management is riskier, but we need to understand the risk, need to talk with the stakeholder, and find out a way to manage it. As long as we can be transparent and we can be upfront with our stakeholders, I think we are moving in the right direction.
Okay, sir. As we are quite to the end of our session, I would ask you to conclude in saying how do you see ESG and tailings management evolving in Canada over the next 5 to 10 years?
Again, that's a very tough question and personal, because a lot of it depends upon the political landscape, the metal prices, and things like that. But in generally, I would say, over the next 5 to 10 years, ESG and tailings management in Canada will become more of an integrated, data-driven, and community-centered. Um, we may see more tighter regulations, but definitely real-time monitoring and stronger indigenous partnership, which will shape the project design and oversight. Um, Again, as I said, transparency and trust will be non-negotiable, and ESG performance would will directly influence access to capital, permit, and public trust. Um, you know, I would like to conclude by saying that the bar for accountability and innovation will only rise. And in future of Canadian mining or North American mining, those who lead in ESG and tailings stewardship won't just meet expectation; they will define them.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing our insights on ESG and tailings management in the Canadian mining sector. And to our listeners, thank you for taking a moment for the podcast. And if you found today's conversation useful, share it with everyone you think would help. And until next time, myself, Uditi, let's keep working toward a greener and fairer future.
Thank you, Uditi.